So, today I'm going to be talking to you about my guide for getting the Speed Climber achievement in Slay the Spire, and we will also be looking over and analyzing the run in which I actually ended up getting that achievement. Now, this is going to be probably quite different from a lot of the other guides you will see on this, and the main thing that's going to make it different is the fact that I am not a speedrunner. So, what you're going to be getting from this guide is a brutally honest assessment of what it's going to take for you to be able to get this achievement if you, like me, are also not a speedrunner. Because if you watch guides put together by speedrunners, they can sometimes be overly optimistic about the things that they expect out of other players, right? So we'll be sort of seeing the average Joe experience of trying to get a difficult speedrun achievement in this game. Now, this is also a very RNG dependent achievement. So, me showing you my winning run won't necessarily even help you that much. I think the other things that might be more helpful are going to be the other things that I can tell you in order to mentally prepare yourself. Because when the time comes for you to get this achievement, I won't be able to do it for you. I won't be able to intervene with the gods of destiny to give you the luck that you'll need. But what I can do is help you get into it with the right mindset. Now, I guess I should mention that last week I did a video on some of my failed attempts at getting this achievement. Only some of the failed attempts even made it into that video just because there were so many of them. And throughout that video, I complained extensively about how much I don't like having to do achievements like these as a non-speedrunner, but as a completionist who hates speedrunning, especially turn-based games, but who feels compelled to do it because I have to get all these achievements, right? So I vented, I coped, I seethed, and I got it out of my system. So I will not be relitigating all of my many grievances in this video. I will only be bringing up the points that I think are going to be helpful for people attempting this achievement. That said, the one good thing that I thought came out of last week was I really liked how this thumbnail came out. It was it was a lot of fun, and I think it's one of the better thumbnails that I've made. All right, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to give you what I think are the best pieces of general advice for anybody trying to get this achievement, and then we will look at my specific winning run. That brings us to point number one, which is that playing Slay the Spire and speedrunning Slay the Spire are two very different things. On the surface, this might seem like a really obvious, really trivial observation, but I certainly didn't fully appreciate what it truly meant until I tried getting Speed Climber for myself. And I think a better way to put it might be when you're trying to get this achievement, it's not just that you're playing this game in an unusual, unorthodox way. It's as though you're playing a different game entirely. It's as though you're playing a completely different game that has completely different objectives and which requires a completely different set of skills that simply do not translate between trying to get this achievement versus playing the game normally. It just does not translate. It's that compartmentalized. So many of the things, so many of the skills that you pick up while playing this game normally, even if you become very good at the game, will simply not help you at all when getting Speed Climber. And the skills that you pick up in order to get Speed Climber will not help you anywhere else in this game. Literally anything else you do in this game, you will not have to do these things. And let me give you a couple examples. One obvious example is just, you know, the fact that you've got to play your cards very quickly. This is a deck builder, this is a turn-based game, but in Speed Climber, you're playing it as though it's a real-time game, which is, which makes for an unusual gameplay experience. And I talked about this in the previous video in the context of me complaining about how much it sucks to play this way if you're not a speedrunner. But it goes beyond just that. You're going to have to pick up all kinds of weird little skills that you will never need in this game outside of just getting this one achievement. Probably the biggest one of those is you're going to have to learn how to, within moments of making an act transition, especially going into Act 2 and into Act 3, you're gonna have to learn how to, within moments of looking at this map, plot a path through it that dodges all elite combat. Elites being that symbol with the two horns. These difficult combat encounters which you want to dodge while trying to get this speedrun achievement because, well, number one, they could kill you outright because the only way to get this achievement is with a glass cannon build. So they could just end your run, or if you do get through them, they might waste enough of your time that you don't get it done in under 20 minutes. And being able to read maps like this quickly is not easy because as you can see how zoomed out this is a very tall map with many little icons on it. And it's very easy to think you're dodging elite combats, but you just didn't pay attention to one spot where you were being forced into a choke point that had an elite encounter, and now you're just screwed because you read the map wrong. So this skill, which you absolutely will need in order to get Speed Climber, is something that you will never have to use anywhere else in the entire game. Because playing this game normally, number one, you're not necessarily dodging elite fights. You might be actively seeking them out in some cases. And number two, you will have time to just plot your uh, journey one step at a time. You don't have to do the whole thing at once because you have time to think. In this achievement, you really do not have time. Well, you do have time to think, but you need to be able to think very, very quickly. You need to be able to think unnaturally quickly. Let's put it that way. You need to be able to do things that you would never do if you were playing the game normally. And that is my first point, which is if you're competent or even pretty good at this game, but you're not a speedrunner, don't go in with the mentality that, oh, I just need to play the game quickly. No, you will be playing a completely different game. The things that you do know, the skills that you do have, won't necessarily be able to carry you through. Right, so that was point number one. Right, that brings us to point number two, which is you'll need to give yourself enough time, but not too much time. Now, the way I normally like to play games is I play in sessions of about an hour to an hour and a half at a time. Maybe 2 hours, maybe a little bit more if I'm really into it and really having a good time. I knew that was going to be a bit of an issue trying to get this achievement. Because I knew that with achievements like this, you need to warm up. You need to get in the flow, so to speak. Because with achievements like this, speedrun achievements, and I guess anything else in the same category, You will only be able to get them if you're playing at the proper rhythm, where you're not just playing quickly, but you're comfortable playing at that pace. And for me, and I suspect for a lot of other people, that you're not just automatically in that zone the moment you pick up a controller. It takes a while to build up to it. And, maybe because I'm just bad at speedrunning, maybe because I'm too old, who knows? It takes me about, or it took me in the 2 days where I attempted to get this achievement, about half an hour to 40 minutes to reach that flow state. Because before I reached that flow state, even when I did clear Act 3, it wasn't quick enough. It was way above the 20-minute mark. So it took me a while to put myself into the kind of rhythm where I even had a chance of being able to get this achievement. And as this point says, what you do not want is for your gaming session to be coming to an end just as you're getting in the flow. Because ideally, what you want is at least a good number of attempts while you're in that flow state, because you will very likely not get it on your first attempt, even when you're in the flow, because of how much luck is involved. So you need to give yourself enough time. But then there's also that point about too much time. And the reason I mention that is because, certainly with me, if I played too long, eventually my quality of play would start to deteriorate. My discipline would go, I'd start making mistakes, I'd start playing rashly, I would have weird selective blindness where I just wouldn't notice things. All kinds of things would happen with a session that went on too long. And for me, that point was like roughly at the 2.5 hour mark. Because I played uh, or I tried to get this achievement across two sessions on 2 different days. The first day was a 3 hour session, and I definitely noticed, looking at the last half hour of what I did on the first day, that the quality of my performance was was not great in that final half hour. On the second day, the day that I actually got the achievement, the session was 2 hours and 20 minutes in total. So my suspicion is that I got the achievement right as I was on the verge of maybe going on too long and my quality of play taking a nosedive. So yeah, you're gonna want to give yourself enough time so that you have a good solid number of attempts while you're in the flow, but not so long that you just lose the flow by virtue of just having played too long. And certainly, if you notice that your quality of play is dropping, just end your session, because you're not really gonna be able to brute force it by just playing more. All you will do is you'll make yourself annoyed and frustrated. That was point number 2. And point number 3 is a bit of a long one, but it does bear mentioning. You must play as the Ironclad, and specifically builds like Perfected Strike or Whirlwind, Sword, Boomerang, basically where it's very obvious what your attack is, and it's a very simple mechanic that doesn't require a lot of moving parts to it. You will need things like Flex, Inflame, Spot Weakness, and Limit Break to scale your strength, but where you're always doing the same one or two attacks, just minimizing the amount of thought that has to go into it. The reason I'm bringing this up and hammering so hard on it is when I was looking up how to get this achievement, I quickly gathered that based on what people were saying, the ironclad was probably the way to go. But occasionally, people would say, hey, I got this achievement as the defect. I got this achievement as the watcher. I got this achievement as the silent. And sometimes they'd talk about how they got it. Don't listen to those people. Anybody telling you they got this achievement with any other character is either just showing off or they got lucky and they didn't realize it. You want to go for this achievement in the most boring, the most standard way possible, which is just play as the Ironclad. Because the Ironclad, when you get a good build going, you will get to the point where you know instantly when you're attacking, when you're not attacking, and it will always be the same 2 or 3 attacks. You will almost never have setup moves where it's some 2-stage process, right? It will always be you're attacking when you can, you're scaling strength when you can. And it's the simplest way that I can think of. I'm not saying you can't get this achievement as the other characters. Obviously, you can. I'm just saying it's not worth the mental effort, at least in my opinion, to come up with speed climber feasible builds for the other characters, right? It's just don't reinvent the wheel, just go the easiest way to do it. All right, we're almost ready to start going over the run, but there's just one last point I wanted to make, and that's actually some good news that I have for you. And that good news is this, which is I managed to get the achievement despite, number one, playing with a controller, because mouse and keyboard is recommended for speed as well as for minimizing mistakes and mispresses. And number two, I got it despite not being particularly skilled at speedrunning. It should say, despite having 0 skill at speedrunning. I got it done in spite of my very low overall level of competence in this mode of play. And if I can do it, then so can you. And with all that said, it's time for us to get into the run. Okay, so it's time to take a look at the run. Now, obviously, I was always going to show it. I feel obligated to. I'm making a video on this achievement. It wouldn't feel right to not include the part where I got it myself. Having said that, this is probably going to be the least useful part of the video in terms of helping people get the achievement for themselves because of how RNG dependent it is, right? I can show you my run, but I cannot guarantee that you'll have the same luck that I did. All I'm really giving you by showing you this is proof of concept that with enough time, with enough luck, with enough patience, eventually you too can get this done in under 20 minutes, even if you play as badly as I do in this clip. I also like the very beginning of this video, and what I like about it is that it doesn't start at the beginning of the run, it starts at the very end of the previous run with me forfeiting. And we see the death screen, and I just love that heading right on top. Devastation. Because it's accurate. That is how I felt while trying to get this achievement. And that is how you will also feel, especially if you, like me, are not a speedrunner. Another thing I like about this video is something that's audible right at the very beginning. Did you catch that? Let me just play it one more time. It was too good not to leave in. That very sad sounding sigh. In fact, let's listen to it in slow motion. Yeah. You can really feel the existential fatigue in my voice right there. You can tell some bullshit must have happened in the minutes prior to this video. I don't remember exactly what because I've gotten rid of most of the runs that didn't amount to anything, but probably something dumb happened. Anyway, let's uh let's start the run for real this time. 100% speed. Start from the beginning and let's get into it. Obviously, you play as the Ironclad, Ascension 0, take Niao's Blessing to get enemies at low health, and take a quick look at where you're going and pick a path. Now, the path I pick is pretty important, but I'll talk about it a little bit later. We have a pretty good start getting some boosted max HP from that potion, and a nice early card removal from one question mark. This question mark ended up being pretty useless. This next question mark, though, is it's pretty good. Got some value out of that. And the one after that gives us a nice early shop. The shop gives us a clash. Pretty decent card. And another nice early card removal. So very solid start. And we get a nice early campfire. And I upgrade the bash. And we get into this elite fight with Niao's Blessing still active. Now, a couple things I'm going to have to talk about. Number one, the relic that I get out of this is huge. Gremlin Horn, whenever an enemy dies, gain energy and draw a card. It's huge. Admittedly, it won't help you against bosses, because against bosses it's usually one really strong enemy, but it will help you against regular and elite encounters on the floor. And most of the time, that is where the run is lost. The run usually doesn't fail because of anything that the elite necessarily did. It failed because the enemies you fought leading up to him either wasted so much of your time that you couldn't get it done in under 20 minutes, or or the enemies do so much damage to you that the elite that the boss is able to kill you, and then the run fails for that reason. So that was a pretty huge pickup. Another thing, you might be thinking, hey, that was really lucky. 4 question marks in a row, meaning you got to fight an elite with Niao's Blessing still active. That's really good luck. But that actually was not luck. What I had actually done was, and I didn't show this, but what I had actually done was I had been resetting until I got a map where between me and the first elite, as you can see, the elite is a little bit, yeah, okay, this shows you where the elite is. So the elite is in the top right, and in between me and the elite, there's 1 regular combat, 4 question marks, 1 campfire, and then the elite. And I kept resetting until I got a layout like this, precisely because I wanted to give myself a chance to snipe out an elite early, to save time and potentially get a useful relic. And sometimes these question marks can have fights in them. You can be unlucky. We ended up being lucky in this run, but yeah. So a combination of patience, resetting until I got that, plus the good luck. All right, hang on. Let's get this video resumed. And we will upgrade the clash. And we pick up another relic. Whenever you enter a rest site, start the next combat with more energy. I think this also ends up being pretty useful in certain combats, so I was happy to pick that up. We pick up another potion, and I pick up a sword boomerang because it's a solid card. It is a solid card. And I upgrade the sword boomerang. And now we're about to enter this shop. Now this shop, I'm going to have to talk about this. We're going to have to talk about what happens in this shop. Because it takes me a while to realize what happens. Because the first thing I do is I start out by taking a look at the relics. And I think I maybe even try to buy Jade Bracelet. But I'm stopped from doing that because I don't have enough money. But the thing about this shop is, look at the cards. In a single shop, we have both Flex and Whirlwind. This is the single most important moment in this entire run. Picking up Flex and Whirlwind in one go. Now, I know some people, skilled speedrunners, are probably thinking, if you give me Flex and Whirlwind, there's no way I can lose. Let me tell you what I was thinking. As soon as I picked up that Flex and that Whirlwind, the only thought going through my mind was, how am I going to screw this up? How am I going to find a way to lose despite this outrageously good luck? And in a weird kind of way, it made me feel worse. It made me feel like genuinely nervous. It made me feel so full of anxiety. Because if I was gonna lose this run, I'd be like, okay, whatever, we lost. But having picked up Flex and Whirlwind, it's like, well, now if I lose, I'm gonna feel so miserable at the end of it. So it's funny how your mind plays tricks on you. Anyway, we're fighting Hexaghost. Flex and Whirlwind, not a great way. Like, it's not built for single target damage. Even though it can scale well if you pick up the right things. But what we really need against this boss is strong single target damage. And I even do the Wild Strike just to get a bit of extra damage. And then I even draw the wound in the next turn, but you know what? The wound ends up being costly because we're not able to play the Clash. And we come very close to this run just ending. Ending before it even begins. But no, we end up getting past the first boss, and we pick up Suzu. So no more potions for the rest of the run, but we are going to have more energy. And now we enter Act 2, and now it's important. You see me looking through the map and trying to parse it pretty quickly, trying to find paths that avoid elite combat. And immediately you can see Flex and Whirlwind coming in very useful. Would have been very nice to draw Whirlwind at the start of this combat, but oh well. I could have maybe played it differently and then not taken damage, because Whirlwind is surely coming soon. Yeah, here comes Whirlwind. And now these birds are going to crash it to the ground, and they're going to be easy targets after that. But only took a little bit of damage, and I healed it all back, I think. And spot weakness is huge. Any source of strength is huge, and speaking of sources of strength, I end up taking the Jaxed Relic, which is pretty important because you start battles with 3 strength, you lose that strength after a turn, but it gives you the potential for a strong first turn if you draw the right cards, and if you get Limit Break, then, well, it's just even better. So, now we're fighting these guys. Another instance where it would have been nice to draw Whirlwind early, but Whirlwind does show up eventually. And I opt not to play the spot weakness just to get a bit more immediate damage. Pick up another Flex, and I, for a moment, consider fighting these guys, but I'm like, I'm not carrying that much gold. Let them take the gold. And I upgrade my second Flex. And this build is starting to come together. Get a bit of gold out of this. And I don't think there's anything we really want out of this shop. I think I try to buy some potions, but I'm stopped from doing that because of Suzu. That's I guess I just immediately forgot that I picked up that relic. Or I mean, I immediately will pick up any relic that gives me energy, but sometimes I forget what exactly the drawback of each one of those was. Alright, so we killed one enemy on the first turn, which was nice. And now you just gotta do Whirlwind. Not quite enough to kill. Maybe if I'd played that differently and if I'd played the Clash, we could have maybe killed her. But we get her in the next turn, so it wasn't that bad in the end. And I think about picking up this Anger, but ultimately I decide not to in favor of having a thin deck. And now this combat is a test of how strong you are. Because if you're struggling to kill these guys quickly, then you're probably not going to do well against the bosses. We killed the back row on turn 1, and then we kill the guy in front on turn 2, get through it without taking a hit, which is huge. And now you're seeing, okay, this build has a lot of potential. Alright. Upgrading the spot weakness is also going to be pretty important, because we have a lot of cards that strike multiple times per turn. Spot weakness is also, or any source of strength is also good with anger, but I opted not to go for that, so we'll see how it went. Well, you know how it went, but a lot of these fights end up being closer than you'd expect. Alright, so now we take Limit Break, and that is another huge moment in this series. Pick up another Flex, maybe? Or do I opt not to? I guess I decide not to. I'm like, my deck is good enough. Yeah, we gotta get rid of these Defends. So now we upgrade the Limit Break, because that's a very important move, and now we fight the Champ. Pretty tough elite. He's ended quite a few of my runs that I thought were doing pretty well until they ran into this guy. And again, I could have played the Clash if I'd done that first move a little bit differently, but you gotta play quickly. Bash this guy, Sword Boomerang. So the damage, how well you scale depends on a little bit. It depends on luck. Like, if you draw Limit Break and Flex on turn 1 while you still have the temporary strength from the Jax relic. If you don't get that, well, you can still get strength later on in the fight, but it's not as good as it could have been. Like with any card game, any deck builder, luck is a part of it as well. You can... I guess there are some decks that completely negate the luck component, but I don't think there's any way to do a speed climber, winnable deck and still go for any like deep infinite strategies. So this guy is gonna do a huge amount of damage. Again, we get through this fight with very low health. We had very low health fighting the first boss at the end of the fight, and we have very low health at the end of the fight against the second boss. Now, I think about taking Demon Form, but I opt not to, and I genuinely think Demon Form it's a bait. It's a trap, especially trying to do Speed Climber, because I've taken this card maybe 5-6 times during these runs. I've played it maybe once. You just never find a good chance to play it. And it ends up being more of a liability because it wastes a turn, and then the payoff isn't even that great. So I end up taking the Fusion Hammer, which is a bit of a risky choice. No more upgrades. But my thinking was, well, first of all, I quickly look through this map and chart a path for myself. So my thinking in taking Fusion Hammer was that most of my important cards are already upgraded. So I could even go into the final fight with just this deck and be fine with it. And maybe I'll get lucky and I'll just find upgraded cards. Again, you know, like hoping that things go your way. And as it turns out, we find a good upgraded flex. Nice and solid. And this is me trying to buy potions and forgetting that I have Suzu. And then not wondering why I can't pick them up. At this point, I'm even thinking maybe the game is glitched, because I've just completely forgotten that I ever picked up that relic. How did I ever win this run? Anyway, so we run into these guys. This is actually a bit of a bad fight with Whirlwind, just because every time you hit them, they do Thorns damage. And so we take an annoying amount of damage from them. But then we get this encounter, and I take this really nice colorless card, Secret Weapon, which is an interesting idea. And then we run into the Transient. The Transient is one of those guys who you hope you don't run into while you're trying to get this achievement, just because of how much of your time he'll waste. In fact, in the video where I'm complaining about all my failed speed climber attempts, I think in the very last one where I beat the timekeeper and I'm like 30 seconds over at the end, 30 seconds too slow, I think I also ran into the Transient earlier in that fight. And yeah, lost a lot of time to that guy. This time though, doing a little bit better. You've got to be a little bit careful fighting the Transient, because you might be thinking, oh, let's just get through his 6 turns as quickly as we can, and then he'll just get lost. But actually, if you aren't careful, if you let him act too quickly, he'll do a large amount of damage to you. So you gotta take him seriously. And there's no more upgrading because of the relic, right? So we rest at that campfire, which is just as good, because we did take a bit of damage earlier on. So now we've healed that back up, and now we're fighting this dude who's pretty tanky, can do a bad amount of damage to you, but I think we've got a very solid deck going on, and I think we're able to kill him before he can do damage to us again. So he buffs himself, but we kill him before he's able to get that attack off. Now I think about fighting these guys. Ultimately I decide not to save time, and then we get Bottled Flame, which is a pretty good thing to pick up, because it means we can guarantee Whirlwind. It was going to be either Whirlwind or Sword Boomerang. I go for Whirlwind. And now this is hilarious. I've completely forgotten that I've picked up excuse me, that I've picked up Suzu. I pay a large amount of money to this guy for potions that I'm not even going to be able to collect. But here's the thing. I think I'm picking them up because the game has spawned these potions, and I'm clicking on them and then they're vanishing from the screen. So I'm like, oh yeah, these are 3 potions that I got. One thing that should have clued me in was that I already had 1 potion, and then I picked up all 3 of them. If I was picking them up, I wouldn't have had enough space in my potion belt. At some point during this combat, I'm like, oh yeah, let me use one of those potions. And then I'm like, wait, hang on. I think it's about to happen right now. Or in the turn after this, where I navigate to my potions. So I'm like, hang on, wasn't there a potion that I bought? I'm looking at my and I'm so thrown by the fact that I didn't have those potions that I accidentally end up passing my turn and taking a whole extra hit from this guy. So what I end up doing is I end up quitting to the main menu and coming back, which is you could say it's a coward's way out. You could say it's cheating. To me, I say it's. I say that the ends justify the means. Anything in the world that helps me get this horrible achievement done, no matter how dishonorable, I would be willing to do. So this time, I do the fight again, and instead of forfeiting the turn, we get through pretty badly hurt, but not as badly hurt as we would have been if we'd let that guy take a whole extra turn on us, like I did that one time. And now we've got some pretty beefy encounters in our last few fights before the boss, which is, it is what it is. You never know what you're gonna get in this game until you land on the spot and see what you're in for. And at this point, we've only got a few more squares before the fight. This is just pretty pointless because I think we end up winning some money. And let's see how much time we have left. If I can see the timer. So I'm pausing here to see that there's more than 4 minutes left. So there's way more time than we need. So the only thing that, and again, Whirlwind is so huge against enemies like those, but yeah, we have more than enough time. The only thing that could end us is just us getting killed. So we fight the Awakened, and this is gonna be a tough fight, a very tough fight. And yeah, at this point, I'm like, I really wish there was some way I could have ended his entire first phase on turn 1 and not taken that damage, but I don't think there was any way to make that happen. So I do the sword boomerang, because I think I can take him out in this turn and avoid this bit of damage. Yeah. And I have to let go of that flex because he's going to take his turn. And he's going to do 40 damage. That's almost all of our health. And I'm like, we've got to kill this guy in 2 turns. There's no way around it. So I get rid of some of my useless cards and I draw a flex. I mean, this draw really didn't help us that much. But we do get a good Whirlwind, I guess. Now we lose a bit of strength because the Jaxed relic wore off. And now we have to kill him in this turn. And luckily, we have enough strength to do it. Now, at this point, I know that 2 sword boomerangs will kill this guy. But unfortunately, what's happening, or what's about to happen, is it was surreal. It was as though I had forgotten how to play this game. I had forgotten which buttons do what. Because you're gonna see me at some point just spazzing out. You're gonna see me, yeah, I'm looking at my empty potion belt. I go to the map for some reason. All I need to do is correctly play this sword boomerang and avoid accidentally ending my turn, and I'm gonna win. And so I'm about to kill him in this turn. That's the sound of the achievement popping. Now I'm pausing it here because I do have my mic connected as well, and in a few moments you're about to hear my real-time comments upon beating this guy. But then at some point I'm gonna cut myself off because I end up rambling a little bit too much because my brain is fried. Like after getting this achievement, you saw like I was struggling with basic motor functions, not knowing how my own fingers worked towards the end of that fight. So I was really not in good shape. Nevertheless, here are my first words upon getting this achievement. Oh my god. Oh. Oh. Jesus. Oh, thank God it's recording. I for a second there thought that I had forgotten to turn the recording on because I've been doing these runs. Is my mic even? My mic is also on. As you can tell, I'm a bit of a mess. Yes. This is Ali from the future once again. And let me just say, I do agree with Ali from the past that in this moment, he was indeed a little bit of a mess. Now, I ramble on for a few minutes in this. I'm just gonna cut all of that out because it was just me saying stuff that I thought was better articulated in the beginning of this video, just talking about like my method for how I was able to get this done and trying to work out what helped me win this run. One thing I will do though, before we segue to the final bit of this episode, is just take a look at how much health I have at the end of this fight. Well, I mean, we gain 6 health from the Ironclad Relic, but really we have only 5 health at the end of this fight. Now let's go and see how much health did we have at the end of the fight with the champ. 5 health at the end of the fight with the champ. How much health do we have when we beat Hexaghost? 6 health at the end of this fight. Now, I want you to just think by yourself, just ponder for a moment all of the things that could have happened on Act 1 that would have caused us to enter this fight with just 6 less health. Think about all of the things that could have happened in Act 2 that would have caused us to enter this fight with 5 less health. Think about all of the things that could have happened on Act 3 that could have caused us to enter this fight with 5 less health. We somehow managed to dodge all of those things. Good job to us. Let's also think about some of the other luck that we had. Think about getting Whirlwind and Flex in the same shop. Think about finding Limit Break. There's definitely been entire runs where I never found Limit Break. So just think about all of the things that had to go right in order for a run like this to eventually come to fruition. Other people will record themselves getting Speed Climber, and I think they sort of have selective memory, right? They over attribute it to their own skill and not to the luck that they had. Or maybe they think, oh, I've been playing so long, the game owes me the luck. Maybe. maybe, but it's undeniable that you need luck to get this achievement. It's a really I mean, it's a deck builder, of course. A large part of the game is about luck, but there's a very specific kind of luck that you need to get Speed Climber. It's your pathways towards success are way narrower than even Ascension 20, playing normally, right? So it's a lot of good fortune is needed in order to successfully get this achievement beaten. All right, so I have just one last thing to show you, and then we'll wrap up. And the last thing we will do today is to just quickly look at the run summary and the run history, just to remind ourselves what happened in this run in a nice, concise way. I love that the game does this, because it really does give you the entire run in a nutshell, like every single encounter. It tells you what happened, right? Okay, so from left to right, we start at floor 1, we removed defend, we ignored this, we took a bit of damage, gained some gold, we removed a defend, we upgraded bash, and for the most part, we know how this run went. Okay, we don't have to go through every single encounter. Let's take a look at what our deck was right at the end. And as you can see, it was a risk-taking fusion. God, how do I select this? It was a risk-taking fusion hammer because we can no longer upgrade our cards. But the reason I picked it up was because, as you can see, the important cards in the deck are all upgraded. Now, it would have been nice to have a secret weapon upgraded as well. I don't remember what the upgrade does for it, but I'm sure it would have been really nice. But even unupgraded, it would have been really nice, you know? So in the end, we won this run with 2 rare cards, 1 limit break, 1 secret weapon, 2 uncommon cards, only 2 uncommon, only 1 whirlwind, only 1 spot weakness. And then the rest were all common cards. And as you saw right at the end, we killed the boss with 2 sword boomerangs in that final turn. So this is a damn good card. And I guess let's take a look at our relics. Bottle Flame, Fusion Hammer, Meal Ticket was probably also very important for given how low our health got at certain points. Without this, we would have probably lost. Another unsung hero of this run, Meal Ticket, Mutagenic Strength. I keep calling it the Jaxed relic, but it's got its own name. Mutagenic Strength helped us out a lot. Suzu, or Sozu, I think I might have been mispronouncing it, helped us out. But also kind of confused me quite a bit, because I wasn't sure where my potions were going, because I'd completely forgotten that we picked it up at some point. Ancient Tea Set probably also helped us out with certain trash mob fights, especially. Gremlin Horn, of course, was a huge pickup to get so early in the run. Again, without this, I doubt whether we would have been able to win the run. Again, not because of what it does in the boss fights, but because of how it helps you with all of the normal fights. And again, the normal fights are truly where this game is won or lost. And it says we won with 11 health, 12 health, but really, it's 5 health, 6 health, because we healed 6 health at the end of combat, but you only heal if you win. You don't heal if you die. So yeah, we by the skin of our teeth got through, and you know what? We deserve this moment. Let's take a look at, where is it? I should know what the icon looks like. There we go. Speed Climber. Now that this achievement is done, the game, it's like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders, and I'm gonna really enjoy getting the rest of these. I'm gonna make videos for some of these like dedicated achievement farming videos. Probably I'll have to do dedicated farming for the Donu one. The minimalist one, definitely. Uh, defeat a boss on turn one, I think that will happen over time. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. The important thing is Speed Climber is done. And in case you are interested, I am doing a Let's Play, Slay the Spire from 0 to 100%, but as you can see, there's a lot left to get, so if you enjoyed this video, do consider following me for that journey. But regardless, I'm glad to have had you along for this video, and just wanted to say thanks for watching, and take care.